What is going on, everybody? In this video, I'm going to be recapping the action from round 1 of the college football playoffs. And at the end of this video, I will also give a brief preview for the rest of the bracket, including the quarterfinal games. And the first round of the college football playoffs kicked off Friday between the 7 seed Notre Dame and the 10 seed Indiana. This game was absolutely dominated at the line of scrimmage like I expected Notre Dame to, and it was even more lopsided than I was expecting it to be. This game was much more lopsided than that score says. I know Notre Dame only won this game by 10 points, but Indiana had their last 2 touchdowns within the last minute and a half of this game. Notre Dame was up 3-27 in the fourth quarter, and they completely controlled this whole game. Indiana struggled at the line of scrimmage against both Michigan and Ohio State, and that definitely came back to bite them in this game. They aren't built at the line of scrimmage. They had a good rushing defense, but they couldn't even stop that Notre Dame rushing attack. And it showed when Jeremiah Love ran for a 98-yard touchdown, the longest touchdown on the season. The college football playoff is absolutely wide open. There's no team that is certainly the best team in the country, but Notre Dame could definitely make a run for the national championship. They run the ball super well. They're also getting some pieces back on the defensive line, and their defense is really good. They have one of the best safeties in the country with Xavier Watts, and they are really good on the defensive line too. Offensively, they need to get the passing game going more, but Riley literally keeps doing his job. He passed for 200 yards in this game, so nothing crazy. But he has been consistent, and some of the receivers have been stepping up. Jordan Faison has some plays in this game, and he's going to be an absolute playmaker moving forward. He had 7 catches for 89 yards in this game. Obviously, Indiana's weak schedule really caught up to them. There could be a different conversation for if they actually belonged in the playoffs or not, because the only team that they played that was good, they lost to by 20 plus. But regardless, Indiana did make the playoffs. They won every other game, but they definitely didn't match up with Notre Dame. And Notre Dame did end up beating Indiana Friday night 27-17. The next game was Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time between the 6 seed Penn State and the 11 seed SMU. This game might have been the most lopsided game in the playoffs. I know the Ohio State-Tennessee game wasn't close at all, but I'll get to that later. But this Penn State versus SMU game was kind of embarrassing for Kevin Jennings. He couldn't do anything. He threw 2 pick sixes, and that offense just couldn't move the ball. I guess I will say they did put together a couple drives earlier in the game, but they just couldn't get in the end zone. They had multiple turnovers inside the 20. SMU's offense was just not ready for the matchup against that Penn State defense with those elite edge rushers. The offensive line got absolutely dismantled in this game. The quarterback play was very average in this game. Both these quarterbacks did not have great games. Neither one of them passed for 200 yards, and they had a completion percentage in the 50s. This was just a sloppy game, but Penn State's offense played a lot better in the second half, and their defense absolutely dominated SMU. Just like Notre Dame, I'll say Penn State has a shot at winning the national championship game. They really competed with Oregon in the Big Ten title game. They kept up in a shootout, and I was impressed. They found ways to win games both offensively and defensively this year. Obviously, they still haven't won the big games, but they really competed with both Ohio State and Oregon. They are getting closer to breaking through, and it's obvious that this offense is way more explosive this year than it was last year. Like I said, the college football playoff is wide open. Texas and Georgia are both the dominant teams in the SEC, but the SEC might not be as good as we think it is this year. And who knows, Penn State might just be a top 4 team in the country. And this was a dominant performance from Penn State. They beat the brakes off of SMU. They beat them 38-10. And similar to the Indiana game, SMU had a late touchdown, so this game was really 38-3. At least until SMU had that late score in the fourth quarter. This is just another example of why the college football playoff system is kind of flawed and needs changes. But regardless, let's move on to the next game. The 5 seed Texas beat the 12 seed Clemson. This was probably the most competitive game in the playoffs. Clemson really came out hot on this game, and they took up 7 minutes of possession. But Texas's rushing attack was too much for Clemson in this game. This was really a breakthrough for Texas offensively. And if they can carry over the momentum, they could be a dangerous team because they already have one of the top defenses in the nation. Texas had an excellent game on the ground, running for 300 yards. They let Clemson back into the game. Clemson made it a 1-score game in the fourth quarter, but Jaden Blue sealed the game with a 77-yard touchdown run. Texas ended up winning this game 38-24. Most of the wins they had this season was because of the defensive performance, but this game was all offense for Texas. Like I said, they ran for nearly 300 yards. This was one of their best offensive performances on the season. They struggled to run the ball against Georgia, and they've struggled to run the ball against good defensive teams. But they really ran it with ease on that Clemson front seven, and that was impressive to see. Quinn Ewers is starting to get into his comfort zone. He looks like he is getting healthy, and he might be ready to take this team on a late season run. I believe they played this game without their top receiver, Isaiah Bond. I don't know when he will be back, but if they can get him back, this offense will be even more dangerous. Texas did win this game, but we have to give props to Clemson for the fight they put up. They are really the only team that put up a fight in the playoffs. Those receivers really stepped up this year, a lot more than I expected them to. And now that Dabo Swinney might actually be using the portal, maybe this team can get back to being an elite contender. It's too early to say, but maybe Clemson has a brighter future and maybe they are trending in the right direction again. But regardless, congratulations to Clemson for winning the ACC and making the playoffs, but you did not belong with Texas. And Texas proved exactly why they are one of the best teams in the country again. And lastly, we had the 8 seed Ohio State absolutely dominate the 9 seed Tennessee in every way imaginable. They dominated the line of scrimmage, they dominated throughout the air. This Ohio State team is so capable of playing like an elite team and the best team in the country, and it's not even close sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't look like a team can even compete with Ohio State. But then they have games against Nebraska and Ohio State, and they just play super soft football. It honestly confuses me. But man, people need to put respect on Will Howard's name. He made some really good throws in this game. Obviously, the offensive line helped him out, but he went 24 for 29 with 300 yards. And he also had 2 touchdowns to only 1 interception. Jeremiah Smith is one of the best receivers in the country. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do the rest of the playoffs because he is a tall and elite playmaker. The Russian attack really got going in this game as well. Tennessee's secondary got absolutely exposed. I know Tennessee had a good front seven, but I did have some questions with that secondary. And the secondary didn't really show much in this game, and they got exposed. Tennessee tried to fight back, but they just didn't have enough firepower, and Ohio State is just the way more talented team. Nico Iamaleava is not quite ready for this big stage yet, and Ohio State dominated Tennessee 42-17. It is very simple with Ohio State. If they play like this the rest of the playoffs, nobody is going to beat them, not even Oregon. I don't know if Ohio State can be this consistent with Ryan Day as head coach. I really don't know. They always find ways to choke, but it just seems different with this Ohio State team. They are very talented this year. The SEC might not be as good as we think it is this year because Tennessee couldn't even put up a fight, and they're supposed to be the 3rd best team in the SEC. It's really hard to say, but I'll say it again. This playoff system is flawed and it needs work. But let's look at the quarterfinals of this playoff bracket. The next game will be played Tuesday, December 31st between the 3 seed Boise State and the 6 seed Penn State. I'm looking forward to this game and seeing what Ashton Jeanty can do, but unfortunately this is probably just going to be another blowout. And same thing with the game on Wednesday, January 1st on the New Year between the 4 seed Arizona State and the 5 seed Texas. Arizona State has had a pretty magical season. Cam Scatterbo is a great running back, but this Texas team probably has too much for Arizona State. I really don't think these are the 8 best teams in the country, and I wish they could fix this format and just get the best teams in there, because we could get a lot better second round games. But instead, we are probably going to get 2 blowouts in the second round of the playoffs, because I don't see Boise State and Arizona State putting up much of a fight. But the game that might just be the best game of the playoffs and maybe the real national championship game is the 1 seed Oregon playing the 8 seed Ohio State. Look, I'm looking forward to this game. This is going to be a rematch of 2 very good teams and maybe the 2 best teams in the country. I think you got a battle of the best roster in the country being Ohio State and the most complete team in the country who has been Oregon this year, and they've shown it on the field. I'm not giving my prediction yet, but I am very excited for this game. This game will be the Rose Bowl played on January 1st at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And the other second round game I am looking forward to is the 2 seed Georgia playing the 7 seed Notre Dame. This will be a night game. There's going to be so many great headlines heading into this game. Can Notre Dame finally win the big game and break through and get back to being an elite team and a national title contender? It's been a very long time. But Georgia also has a lot to play for. Even without their quarterback Carson Beck, there's a lot on the line for them too. I think this is going to be a great matchup, but this definitely could be a concern for Georgia not having their quarterback in Carson Beck. But regardless, those are the 4 quarterfinal playoff games. I will get my predictions for these games very soon, so definitely tune into this channel. Now let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you'll love this channel because we upload a ton of college football content and we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing and also consider checking out my socials down in the description below. But that is going to do it, guys, and peace out.